Joel Embiid gets benched in the fourth quarter against a tough loss to the Philadelphia 76ers against the Nets. We're going to break it all down right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On 76ers. We're your hosts, Keith Pompey, 76ers beat writer. I'm Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Blue Coats, the Philadelphia 76ers NBA G League affiliate. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. If you're watching us here on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. In addition to listening to us on any audio platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything that you listen to your podcast. In addition, you can also check us out at our free daily newsletter that is on lockedondaily.com. So the 76ers, a tough loss to the Nets, but the big highlighting factor from that is the fact that the 76ers went on a run without Joel Embiid. He was really, really bad from beyond the arc. He was benched in the fourth quarter, and the 76ers almost coming back in that game. They do fall 105-103. I mean, Keith, I do want to highlight, without getting too much into looking ahead on Joel Embiid, but what happened in that game there, because you look at missing all 3-point attempts, they go on a run without him, and this team is just playing better without him now. Now, yes, they said there was a little bit of knee swelling, and he, went down a little bit at the end of that third quarter, but this team was just playing better without him, and it takes me back to when he wasn't on the court, and Tyrese Maxey was also going on that run. So right now, we've talked about it a time or few, saying the 76ers are better with Joel Embiid on the floor in the past, but now he's starting to become a little bit of a liability with the way that he's unable to play at his full potential.
Yeah, he's a major liability right now. And, let's face it, he's not playing at the level that he was playing at the previous two seasons. When he was healthy those seasons, he was the most unguardable player in the NBA. Right now you got guys like Nick Claxton is like, oh, fresh meat. Let's go drive the lane. Looks like a layup line. You know what I mean? Like, they're just embarrassing the guy. And, with that being said, it's kind of like, Nick Nurse had a choice to make. He had a decision to make. Like, you know what? Right now we're struggling. We lost 6 in a row, 8 out of 9 games. Do I try to win this game, or do I worry about this guy's ego? And what he did is he decided to go with the latter. I mean, he decided to go with the former and tried to win it. And I think that led to why Embiid declined to talk, a lot of other things. But you know what? You got to commend the coach, because, I mean, let's face it, everyone who watched that game looked at it and was saying, what's wrong with Joel? He's not the same guy. And with that being said, Kayla, we talked about this for a while. And I don't want to get on a tangent, but we said this time would come where Joel kept putting it out there when he said, like, hey, to Lisa Salters, that, hey, I may need surgery. Then he didn't back away from it when I asked him the next day. And then on Thursday, he comes back and says, you know what? I may need surgery again. So now what's happening? Now they're considering surgery and possibly shutting Joel Embiid down for the rest of the season. Who knows what happens, but they're considering it. But let's face it, at this particular time, he can't help him. He's just not, he doesn't have the legs, and it's hard to say it, but he's been a liability out there for the 76ers.
And it's crazy to say, because just 13, 12 months ago, you're looking at him as, maybe a little bit banged up, but them wanting to get him back. And he was a really good player last season and having MVP caliber seasons as well. And it's so crazy that in the blink of an eye, you go to the 2024-25 season. This has been happening really since the preseason. Now, this is the worst it's been. Yes, but you knew coming into the preseason after he played in the Olympics that he was going to be limited, not playing back-to-back. He plays a good set of games, and then all of a sudden he's out for 5 to 7 games because of that knee swelling. And this was a constant of, does he need surgery? Does he need to get looked at even before the season started? And now, because his play is so poor and how it's really affecting the team in a negative way, because this team can run up down the floor with Tyrese Maxey if they want. They can't do that with Joel Embiid in the lineup. And now the play is at its worst it's been. And now you hear multiple reports, surgery, which is something that was already in the conversation and we were talking about before. And we kind of knew once it got really bad, that's when it would be amped up of the conversation of making sure, they're going to look at other options, the conversations of possibly shutting him down and everything in between. And Keith, you were able to talk to Nick Nurse on Sunday about it as well, with him benching him in that fourth quarter. And this is the one time that I like that Nick Nurse stuck to what he needed to do there, because that was absolutely the right call. What else did Nick Nurse have to offer there? Kind of going back and forth about what happened with Joel Embiid at the end of the game against the Nets.
Yeah, it's funny. Like initially, right after the game, and you got to give Nick credit because typically what Nick Nurse and most coaches do is like, okay, prime example, Caleb Martin would struggle at certain games, right? And then Nick would bench him. And then you knew why he benched him, because he was a liability. But Nick would come out and say, well, he's dealing with the hip. He's this and that. You're like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, bro, that's not why you benched him. But right after this game, Nick Nurse was asked, why didn't he go to him? And Nick says, well, that group was just playing so well together and had a good feel for the game at that point, and we just wanted to let them roll with it. So then that's what he said after the game. And then today, Sunday, it was one of those things where he was asked, you know what, Nick, did you have a conversation with Joel in regards to, you benching him? And was he agreeable to it? And Nick basically doubled down and was just like, you know what? He says, no, I think he saw the way the guys were playing and they were rolling. They gave themselves a good chance to win. So basically he said, no, I didn't have a conversation with him, but I think he saw. So that lets me know that, you know what, it's like Joel saw everything that everyone else saw. And you look on the bench and, I'm pretty sure it was embarrassing for Joel to be, a player that got benched in the game. But at the same time, they came back. He had to see that. He had to see how they came back. He had to see how he kept falling to the ground and doing all these other things. Right now, he's just a liability out there for them on the defensive end.
Yeah, they went on that 25-16 run there without Joel Embiid, and they were able to almost come back. And going to the game a little bit overall, we'll keep touching on Joel Embiid throughout this episode and kind of the future and the conversations around that knee, but 105-103. So they're down by almost 17. They come back. Maxey hits that three in the corner. He says, okay, this team is alive. They just needed to get the big fella off the floor. And then all of a sudden they come down, shoot a three, and who gets it to go with plenty of time left in the game? Claxton is able to be in the perfect place at the perfect time. And he basically said, I'm going to make Paul George look extremely small here, go right over him, get the bucket, and win the game on the road. I mean, Paul George didn't look great in that game either defensively. The 76ers didn't look great in that game either defensively. But in a situation like that, the thing that I kept saying to myself was fundamentals. Box out your guy behind you. I understand, going off the rim in that direction is something maybe you don't prepare yourself for, but just the nature of boxing out. But Claxton got to it way too easy and puts it up with plenty of time. So Paul George also not looking the greatest defensively down the stretch either, Keith.
No. And you saying fundamentals, like if the Sixers are a team that their effort comes and goes. Like how is the Brooklyn Nets shooting 60-something% in the first half against you? And then in the second half, you guys are digging in deep. You're turning them over left and right. They're not shooting the ball well. But on that last play, and it wasn't just PG, like Yabusele had a chance to box him out and he didn't get a body on him. And then PG was too busy ball watching, and that was led to my man to get the ball. So it's kind of like, the effort was horrid in the first half, and they kept blowing by PG. And then in the second half, they were like, it was like Arkansas 40 minutes of hell. Like, you know what I mean? They were like digging deep. And then
yeah, you're right.
On the line, it was kind of like, Like,
Where is it?
Yeah, like, oh snap, there he is. He's got the ball. Yo, what's going on? It was crazy. It was crazy.
It was crazy, and it's crazy too because I covered a high school basketball game before that, and I saw more boxing out in that game than I saw in the last few seconds of the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, come on. What are you going to do? Stand there and hope the ball comes right to you if the three's missed, or did you think it was going to go in? I mean, everything that could have gone wrong in the end there did. Tyrese Maxey brings them to life, but in typical Sixers fashion, they fall in that game against the Nets 105-103. And they drop below the Nets in the Eastern Conference as well. So something you look at, 12th place now, 20-36 overall this season. It has not been good for this team whatsoever. So that was the game against the Nets. We're going to look ahead a little bit with Joel Embiid, if who's going to be available in that Bulls game. And then we will also preview that one as well. The 76ers, once again, in 12th right now in the Eastern Conference. We'll get to all of that in just a moment right here on Locked On 76ers. Before we do get to that, we have to tell you about DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Here are a few ways you can take advantage of this deal. Game day feast. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers. You can feed the whole family, people, for your favorite spot, delivered straight to your door. Late night cravings, whether you're staying up watching highlights or just need a midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Lunch on the go. Need a quick and easy lunch the next day with Dash Pass? You get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you have seen more with the exclusive NBA offer. And fueling your watch party, planning to catch the next game, order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. Make sure you sign up at Dash Pass and be ready to save as well. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day. Up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms to apply. Make sure you visit DoorDash to learn more. Once again, make sure you visit DoorDash to learn more. What a terrible season it has been for Joel Embiid. And, going forward, when you look at it, and I want to go back to kind of what we talked to before. You look back in the preseason, you look back at what happened all the way back to the Olympics. You say, should he really play in that? The injury continues to get worse. The knee continues to swell, but it's fantastic timing for reporters to go out and say, well, this is what Joel Embiid is telling them. This is what the team is telling them as well. And the team trying to paint this narrative that now he might need the surgery when all along it probably could have happened. But you wait until the last moment, until he is a major liability with this team to be able to do that. I think this hurts not only, of course, Joel Embiid, Keith, but in addition to this team that has been trying to win. You look at Tyrese Maxey, and Maxey had a really good quote too, saying they're just trying to do what they need to do in addition to supporting Joel Embiid and what he needs. But you can only support a guy so much when he goes out there and plays like the way that he did against the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, in my personal opinion and the way we analyze Joel Embiid this season and the way we look at it, I think they need to shut him down. He's not helping them. He is hurting them. Once again, the timing of the reports is fantastic and what the Sixers are telling everybody at this very moment. But, we talked about maybe we'll wait a little bit until the term shut down for Joel Embiid will be true. Right now, what I saw against that Nets team, I just don't think there's any coming back from that. That knee is not getting better, and his energy and his effort out there is not helping this team.
Yeah, I mean, but after the way he went out against the Nets and, when you talk about pride and everything, I do think that this might be the end. I mean, he may play a couple more games, but the competition is about to get a little stiffer too, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been bad. But if you think about it, this whole entire season with him has been a major disappointment. I mean, it just has. And you think about it, he shows up at training camp and then during the media day, he says, well, we got a plan and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And then you're like, okay. And then it's like, well, I'm not playing in the preseason game. Like, it was weird. Like, they go out to the first, think about this, Kayla. They go to Des Moines, Iowa, the first preseason game. And you're like, okay, where's Joel? Oh, well, he's not playing. He has to see some doctors. Okay, well, you guys going to be on like a 4-game road trip. Is he going to show up? And they're like, we don't know. What you mean you don't know? Like, you know what I'm saying? So then all of a sudden he doesn't play. And then when he does play, it's kind of like they have the team meeting, and then you hear that Maxey has to tell him stuff, right? It's like telling him to show up on time. Then he gets into it with the reporter. Then it's the female ref. Like, it's like, it's kind of like a nightmare of a season for this guy, and I guess the frustration is sky high, but he has a lot of things. But you look back at it, and, for years, Joel Embiid has been the reason for their success. And this season, he has been a major distraction, and the crazy part is he's getting paid a lot of money for it and everything. And he has this contract. And I get it. Like, I'm pretty sure there's the frustration with the knee, but it just seems like we've been talking about more about him with injuries, getting into it with people having meetings, talking about him, comments that he says to reporters, than we have been him talking about basketball. And that's the disappointing part of this season to me.
And the reality of the situation, too, is that Joel Embiid is beyond frustrated and taking it out in a lot of different ways where he really shouldn't be, in situations where his teammates are having to put him in check when he's supposed to be the franchise player, getting the extension, becoming that leader. And he just hasn't been that at all this season. And I think that's where you lose a lot of people. And I'm talking your teammates, I'm talking fans as well, because there's been injuries and there's been reasons that players have had to sit out all over the NBA. It's the nature of the game, unfortunately. It's been the nature of Joel Embiid's career. And I get it can be frustrating every single season, getting hurt, bringing Paul George in. He can't play at his fullest potential. But you have to do the other things to be able to continue to be that franchise leader, that guy for your team. And it's been quite the opposite. So it's not only the knee, but it's everything else he's been doing in a situation where his team is bad and they need him to be a leader if he can on the sidelines, or somebody that's in practice helping his guys out, or in team meetings trying to get everybody focused. And he just hasn't been that guy because he can't be focused. And it's clearly getting to him as well. And I think the biggest thing for me, and why I say that the time needs to come to an end this season, if that surgery needs to happen, it needs to happen soon, is because on defense, he is struggling so bad. He's tough getting back. He's not boxing guys out. He's not rebounding. He's not going up for those big blocks. And I think that's something when you look at Joel Embiid's career and you say, if he comes back, everybody always talks about the conditioning, where it's not where it needs to be coming off an injury. But I feel even if his offensive game couldn't get going a little bit, he always prides himself on defense. He wanted to be Defensive Player of the Year at some point. And that no longer is there. That was no longer there this season. And that to me shows that Joel Embiid is a little far gone on this year, at least for 2024, 2025. I don't think there's any reason that you need to keep on pushing it if you're the 76ers. They've already put it out in the media now that, they're looking at different options and everything in between. But when you talk about not being able to have the leadership on and off the court, in addition to defense, where you prided your game on for so many years and talked about it to a lot of different reporters, I just think right now there is no reason for him to not be shut down, in addition to he is hurting his team. And in the past, it was, well, if 50% Joel Embiid is better than no Joel Embiid. Right now, that is not the case at all, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well cancel Christmas for the rest of the season. Seriously, it's done. To me, because, we're talking about the Brooklyn Nets. We're talking about dudes saying, they had dudes. The Brooklyn Nets, if there's one team that's more injured than the Sixers, it's the Brooklyn Nets. Seriously. And, we're talking about guys that, Embiid just used to dominate, and he was just a liability out there. And I don't see him being able to help him right now playing at this level, you know what I mean, with the knee. The main thing is I have to say, you can't keep having surgeries over and over and over and over on your left knee, right? Yeah. So my biggest concern about it is, forget this season. what is he going to look like next year when he comes back? You know, I mean, what is he? Because, you know, he's 30 something years old. He has an extensive injury history. You know, Father Time catches up overall. Like, he's 30, but he's an old 30 because of all the injuries. You know, is this the end? Like, how are we going to remember Joel Embiid? That's just
That's a good conversation too to have, especially when they shut him down completely, because when you look back at the greats and, you know, when it's all said and done and this era continues to go down and guys retire, and you're talking about future generations of NBA analysts or fans or everything in between, what are they going to remember him as? They're going to remember him as the guy that won an MVP, that can never get out of the second round. The injury prone word is going to circulate his name a lot, and that he wasn't able to bring the 76ers to a championship. They might not all remember the Ben Simmons passing up that wide open dunk. They might not remember Markelle Fultz not being the guy that he was in college. They're going to remember the centerpiece and what he couldn't do, also what he could do in addition. But there's just a lot of conversation. There's still a lot of time left on that contract too. And who do you turn to? Because another surgery, they always say, you know, for major surgeries like that, you hear it in the NFL all the time. Once you tear your ACL, you're never the same player. Joel Embiid's had a lot of surgeries. And I know it's not a torn ACL, but you've had that MCL issues, had the knee swelling now. There's a lot of things that have prohibited him to be able to play at that level. Another surgery might help keep it intact, but that doesn't mean it's going to bring him back to that dominating Joel Embiid that we knew last year and the year prior. So his future is in question too. And that's a conversation that we're definitely going to be having, especially if they officially shut him down, because now they're starting to look at options for Joel Embiid. So once again, just a really poor performance. He got benched in the fourth quarter, and Nick Nurse saying that's what he had to do. And I agree with Nick Nurse. I think that the 76ers play way better without him against the Nets we're talking about too. That's another big concern for the Philadelphia 76ers. But coming up, they have the Bulls. The Bulls, the team above them in the Eastern Conference standings. Is there still a push to get into that play-in spot? Are the Bulls going to come in and try to pounce on the 76ers that are kind of a broken team right now? We're going to talk about that on the other side in just a moment. But first, we do have to tell you about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. And there's no better place to get into it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to be a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel as a live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is so easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $100 in bonus bets and $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Make sure you go check out FanDuel today. All right, so this Bulls game coming up today is kind of hard to preview at this moment because the 76ers, we don't know who they will have. That's going to be at 7 p.m. here tonight. So what we know is Justin Edwards is out of this game. I think this is the contest you look at, Keith, and you say the 76ers can go out there, and we don't know the status of Joel Embiid, but I don't know if I see him playing in this game. If they do, I don't know how much time he's going to have because complaining about that swelling and everything in between. But I would like to see them honestly play without Joel and see how they can run up the floor and if they can get a victory against the Chicago Bulls, because this might be the last game you look at and say, they're still somehow on the outside, very outside looking in of that play-in picture. But after that, it might be just kind of go down in the ranks a little bit. What are you looking for from the 76ers team going into this Bulls game, kind of not knowing the status of Joel Embiid at this very moment? The only status we do know definitely is Justin Edwards will not be able to play.
Yeah, we also know that Kyle's not playing. Kyle Lowry, Eric, guys like that who weren't out. This game is kind of funny to me, though, because you look at, I mean, seriously, because you look at a Chicago Bulls team that, like, you know, the only reason that Nick Vucevic is on the team is because they couldn't get the deal that they wanted for him, right? Like it was like a fire sale, and they was just getting rid of people. So they're tanking, right? They're basically, they don't want to get that 10th spot. They want to be a lottery team. Like they, so this is like one of those games, you know how like in a schoolyard, maybe in like middle school, where there was like two people who really didn't want to fight. So what they were doing is, you hit me first. No, you hit me first.
It's basically just like that, pretty much.
Yeah. It's like, you here, I'm gonna give you this 3 to shoot. You do this, you do that, right? You know
and see who ends up, coming out on top. We don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those games where it's probably, I mean, the Sixers from a confidence standpoint, they do need a win, but it's also one of those games where, like, let's just say if the Bulls start raining threes, then all of a sudden we're going to see Nick Nurse just go to like a 2-3 zone and just let them shoot. You know what I mean? Let's say, look, we're not going to come back. But no, like seriously, like this is one of these games where, we were talking about a Bulls team that lost 6 games in a row, right? They lost like 8. They lost like 8 of 9 and something like 12 out of like 14 games, right? This team is horrible right about now.
They are.
And the thing for the 76ers, if they want to salvage making it, is one of those things where, okay, you go here, you get this win, then you have the tiebreaker over them, right? Mm-hmm. So it puts you in contention to get this, to go like in the playoffs. But here's the problem. We talk about the play-in tournament, right? And we were how excited, like, yeah, they're close. But you need a healthy Joel Embiid for you to do anything in the playoffs. So it doesn't benefit them from going there. Like, right now, the 76ers got to hope that they can go on one of the worst losing streaks in NBA history and hope and pray that the Toronto Raptors and maybe the Memphis Grizzlies go on quality winning streaks. Because, they have to right now, I feel like the goal is to secure that top 6 pick. You know what I mean? So, yeah, this is a great game to win. But at the same time, is it really going to benefit you beating this team?
And the other thing, too, is we talk about the 76ers possibly getting into the play-in. So the picture looks like right now, the Bulls are 22-35. The Nets 21-35. The 76ers with 20 wins, 36 losses. If you're in that 10th spot, you got to play the Hawks. And this 76ers team is not beating the Hawks in that first game. If you win that game, you either play the Magic or the Heat. I don't think the 76ers win those games either. And then if you get into the first round, well, they're just going to be embarrassed at that point. Because Joel Embiid is not going to get back to a healthy form. He's just not at this point in the season. It does look like that he needs surgery. And then where do you go from there? A Paul George that in some big games that you say they need to win, he has 2 points, and then he can't box out a guy? I mean, come on now. There's really not any good looks for the 76ers if they do get into that 10th seed. So I'm going to be curious to see how they play. And I want to ask you this, Keith, before we send things off really quickly. Joel Embiid, there is conversation surrounding him about shutting it down, this season being done. Does the same thing happen with Paul George if that happens with Joel Embiid? Because there might not be any point of playing him and continuing to give him injections in his finger if Joel Embiid's done, because a healthy Joel Embiid is your only hope at making some type of run.
I mean, I think so, yeah. I mean, because like you're looking at it, without Joel Embiid, Paul George is smart. Like without Joel Embiid, your team's not going anywhere. So what am I do? I'm gonna get injections just so we can lose in the first or second round of the play-in tournament, or like, Lord, if we go to if we somehow manage to get in the playoffs, we're gonna get swept. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just this team lost a lot, and I get it. He's getting these injections and he's doing all this, but what that does is that doesn't make it any better. It's just numbing it for that time period. So, PG is about to be 35, right? 34th, about to be 35. He has 3 seasons left, and he has to try to get himself in shape and do whatever he can, because right now his image is at like an all-time low as far as productivity and all this other stuff. If I'm this dude, I'm trying to just like focus on getting healthy and doing everything in my power to like prove my naysayers wrong next season, not trying to go somewhere and get the 20 points in a game that we know we're going to lose in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And it's so funny to me. I always go back to the beginning of the season when we said, oh, there's really no drama this season. Just Paul George and Joel Embiid, not playing back-to-backs. And now we're here on February 24th, and we're like, oh, boy, this team's talking about tanking, shutting guys down. This is not what you thought of when you were bringing Paul George in and having a big three, which hasn't been a big three all year. So it will be interesting to see how the 76ers perform the Bulls. As you alluded to, Keith, it's going to be like, oh, you want to take a three? Oh, the Bulls want to. And we're going to see who comes out on top. Maybe a game of hot potato out there on the NBA courts, because that's what we're looking to see here tonight. The Bulls also a team that is looking to lose games and tank the 76ers in kind of a gray area and a weird area right now, possibly shutting their big fella down.
So you remember when the Sixers won 4 in a row and then all of a sudden they lost to like Denver and Boston, and you said to me, Keith, do you think they're about to lose 10? And I was like, huh? Nah, I don't know. What made you, and now again, I know it happened beforehand, but what made you like think that, okay, this could happen again? Like when they were playing so well, like, you know what I mean? Like what made you think that? Because it comes out that you were right on it. Like you knew something was about to happen or could happen.
I just think the inconsistency, and they never showed me that they could actually go on a run and win some games. And the most interesting thing to me too is that Tyrese Maxey was playing so well. And I just knew that if Joel Embiid, knee swelling is no joke. Knee swelling is not a thing that gets better just with some rest. That can happen and continue to happen if you play in consecutive games. The thing is that Tyrese Maxey was able to do a lot of that without Joel Embiid on the floor. When Joel Embiid comes on the floor, the game slows down for everybody. Joel takes some time to get up and down the floor. Tyrese Maxey can't go out and run. And they had some of that two-man game, but it was the inconsistency of the team, the inconsistency of them all playing together, and also just Paul George. Paul George didn't show me anything that he would be able to really be that third man to lift them up. So they were so inconsistent, and the only guy was Tyrese Maxey. And I said this in the beginning of the season too. They got to watch out how they play Tyrese Maxey, because this guy's going to get burnt out. He's going to play so much and so hard that he might be prone to some type of injury as well, whether it's that hamstring, whatever it may be. And I just thought Tyrese Maxey's luck was going to run out. And I don't like to say that because he's carried this team on his back. But the reality of the situation is he can't score 40 points every single night with no help. And they just weren't getting help. So I saw into the future a little bit there. I will say that. But it's been a tough reality for this team. And they didn't show us really anything where those Joel Embiid and Paul George could help Maxey out. It's been the Tyrese Maxey show all season long.
Good one, because I was wondering. I was like, dang, what's she know?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Because I was like, they think they might. They get everybody excited, and then they go on these big losses. So props to Tyrese Maxey, but he's also a human. He's not a superhero. He can't go for 40, 50 every single night. And Paul George and Joel Embiid can say, I'm getting paid. You go do your thing, dude. Like, it's, that's not the reality of the situation. So we'll see how Tyrese Maxey performs here tonight, because I'm sure he'll be trying to get a victory here against another depleted Bulls team as well that's also trying to lose. So we'll wait and see. 76ers on that losing streak. It has been a tough season. We know, people, but stay locked in with us until the end here. We're going to be talking about it, the drama, the chaos, the news, everything in between. And we will have the recap after the game as well. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you guys after the game.